I stumbled upon this clip today, and it's basically Tucker Carlson. I can't play it because Fox News will give me some copyright stuff, but I have it basically detailed in an article that I'm going to read in a second. Tucker Carlson says a whistleblower told him that he is being spied on by the NSA and that he has filed for an FOIA request for information. The Biden administration is spying on us. We have confirmed it. He goes on to say that this whistleblower has given them details about private text messages that he's had, correspondence, emails that he's had with people within the Fox News network that he's working on, stories, something that's coming out soon that no one would know. No one would have access to that information unless they were spying on him. So it turns out they were. And then there was a retweet from that. Joe Biden has a history of being involved in spying on his political opponents. He was VP of an administration that spied on Fox News and AP reporters. He was also one of the people who submitted unmasking requests against Michael Flynn. He spied on Fox News before when he was VP of the administration. Now he's head of the administration. He's the president of the United States. And it seems he's doing it again. This is not okay. This is definitely not okay. Of course, the White House deflects. What a surprise. Jen Sackey, she's great at this, right? This is one of her best things. I'll circle back queen. In the media briefing on Air Force One, Press Secretary Jen Psaki fielded a question from a reporter about allegations laid out on Monday night by Tucker Carlson that the NSA is spying on him. Tucker Carlson, this is a quote from her, Tucker Carlson has said that the NSA is spying on him. Is the administration aware of any espionage or listening efforts on U.S. citizens by the NSA, and is Tucker Carlson one of them? Oh, Sackey was asked. And she replies, well, the NSA is an entity that focuses on foreign threats and individuals who are attempting to do us harm on foreign soil. So, that is their purview. Beyond that, I would point you to the intelligence community. Not one peep, not one answer, not one response, really. Well, this is, in fact, what they are supposed to do, and anything else, we ask you to see them. Point you to the intelligence. They are the intelligence community. What do you? You're the spokesperson for the administration who has, on record, spied before. Why wouldn't we assume that they're spying now when Tucker seems to have had proof? It goes on to explain what he's got here. On Carlson's show, he told viewers that, quote, we heard from a whistleblower within the U.S. government who reached out to warn us that the NSA, the National Security Agency, is monitoring our electronic communications and is planning to leak them in an attempt to take the show off the air. Yeah, Fox News, Tucker Carlson's show, it's one of the highest rated shows ever. I'm pretty sure it is. It's ever. It hit some crazy milestone last year. Not really surprising because Tucker Carlson drops truth bombs all the time. Carlson claimed that the whistleblower added to his credibility by sharing information that could only have been known to someone with access to Carlson's personal text messages. The whistleblower, who is in a position to know, repeated back to us information about a story that we are working on that could have only come directly from my texts and emails, Tucker explained. There was no other possible source for that information, period. Fox News filed a Freedom of Information Act, an FOIA, request Monday morning asking all of the information that the NSA and other agencies have gathered about Tucker Carlson's show. Fox News has contacted the press office at both NSA and the FBI, attempting to get to the bottom of the allegations. Of course, no comment. Why would they? They're not going to come out and admit that they were spying on Tucker Carlson or the Fox News network. Why would they? It's illegal. They're not allowed to do that. It's American. You can't spy on Americans unless you have, I guess, some sort of proof that they're going to do harm or whatever it is. actual terrorists. Tucker Carlson, though? No. He's just disproving the narrative that most of the media shoves down everyone's throats. I see it all the time. And I'm so grateful that I don't fall prey to it, because I read all sorts of different sources. I tend to watch the news conferences and read the news articles from all different sides to get a really good picture of what's actually happening. But I'm personally on the side of trusting Tucker Carlson. I don't know how you feel about him. A lot of people, it tends to go hit or miss. Like, some people love him, some people hate him. But I'll tell you what I don't trust is Jen Sackey, is the Biden administration. I don't trust what they're saying. I mean, but there's people right now storming the White House. They're saying we gotta go and barricade each of the 10 entrances into the White House to force Biden to uphold what he said he would do about climate change and battling systemic racism and all this stuff. And it's like they're occupying the streets. They're occupying a federal building. Isn't that insurrection? Isn't that what they claimed it was? Like, when it's not even Trump supporters, because it's turned out it's the FBI that have instigated this whole thing on January 6th. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, actually. But I mean, we're coming there. They've admitted that there was actually people that were part of the FBI in the crowds, instigating, making things worse than they were. Not to mention that we have the Antifa / Black Lives Matter activists that were in there on video saying he has a knife, saying they're going to attack you, telling the cops to get out of there because they're going to attack him anyway. And then Ashley Babbitt gets shot right afterwards. So, like, all these things, do we trust it? I don't know. Not me, personally. Definitely not. I don't trust this administration. I mean, here, check this out. Now they're coming out and saying, absolutely shame. Under questioning from Fox's Peter Doocy, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki argues it's Republicans who have been defunding the police and not supporting law enforcement because they didn't vote for Biden's stimulus boondoggle, the American Rescue Plan. They defunded the police, right, over the past year. I did a tweet. I was like, you know what? Just random question. Who do you think defunded the police? Would you say it's Democrats or Republicans? Let me just pull this up real quick. I think it was like yesterday. Here it is. If you had to choose one, 96% of 2,800 votes said it was the Democrats. I don't even know who would have, in their right mind, would have voted for Republicans, because it was the Democrats trying to defund the police. It was in their platform. Joe Biden came out and said, when asked about defunding the police, he said, yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. It's like, okay, that's the Democrats. That's the Democrats. So now they created a problem, right? The Democrats have now created a skyrocketing crime issue across all these different Democratic cities. Okay, it's happening. There's a crime wave. They're trying to blame it on gun violence, or maybe you should be accountable for your actions, Democrats, because you're the ones who defunded the police. Okay, so now you have a bill to give money to police and revitalize the police force, and probably a bunch of other things that the Republicans don't agree with. So now you're going to come out and say, how dare these Republicans not support our police officers? How dare these Republicans not support our communities that clearly have crime issues? These Republicans, it's their fault. The problem with that is most people eat it up. They go, yeah, what's up with these Republicans? How dare they? Maybe they are the ones who wanted to defund the police. They're the ones who caused this problem. No, it's not. It's the Democrats. They created a problem and now are saying, here's the solution. And it's basically bringing and canceling everything that they've done over the past year. What? How do people not recognize what they're doing? They're saying, It's them. They're the ones who created a problem while holding everyone's head underwater. It's like, you're the one who's doing this. You're creating this issue, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. Here's from the Daily Caller. Defund the police is so unpopular that the Democrats are now claiming Republicans did it. It's just, you look at this and you think it's a joke almost. Like, how is this actually a thing? In the most liberal places in the U.S., New York City, a Democratic primary for mayorship shows a microcosm of how the majority of the public takes to defunding the police campaigns and attitudes. Brooklyn Bureau President Eric Adams, a former NYPD officer, currently leads Maya Wiley, who is endorsed by Ocasio-Cortez by over 9 points, with 82% reporting in the Democratic mayoral primary. One of the reasons Adams is leading in the prior polls is that the people of NYC were made wary of high crime rates. Eric Adams promised to take a tough approach to the streets, and Maya Wiley called for defunding the police. No way, a Democrat doing that? Adams' lead is not only an affront to his more progressive contenders, but to some of the stances from Mayor Bill de Blasio. A Siena College poll from June 2020 found that 60% of New Yorkers disagreed with defunding the police. An increase in crime is not localized to New York City, however. In 2020, continuing into 2021, violent crime in American cities surged in ways that were unseen over 3 decades, with black people making up a majority of the victims. Look at these stats. Portland, homicides up 800%. Minneapolis, 56%. Philadelphia, 40%. Washington, D.C., 35%. Los Angeles, 27%. And New York City and Chicago up 22%. All of these numbers going up are bad. Homicide rates. That's murder. People getting murdered. 800% in Portland. That's crazy. What's changed in Portland? What's different about Portland? What have we noticed? Oh, yeah. It's Antifa hotbed. They were freaking rioting in the streets for months on end. Ted Wheeler let it happen. He didn't stop it. He's now since declared it's a problem. And he was out marching with them. And then they turned on him. The entire time he was marching with them, they were saying, we don't like you anyway. Antifa doesn't care about Biden. They don't care. They're not bipartisan. They're anti-everything. They want to burn our system down. Defund the police took a political realm by storm when liberal activists responded to the May 2020 death of George Floyd by calling for budget cuts to the police departments all over the country. With unpopular support, including in liberal hotspots, for the campaign on police, Democrats have come to realize the loud voices in their party are in fact a minority and are hurting their electoral chances. Oh, they better switch tune, right? Start blaming the Republicans. The movement is so unpopular with voters that Democrats are now claiming Republicans are the one actually doing it. A YouGov poll taken shortly after the Defund the Police movement began found that only 16% of Americans agreed with the idea. 16%. And that's of who took the poll. A recent USA Today poll also found that less than 1 to 5% of Americans support it. That's today. That's crazy. Along with only 28% of black Americans and 34% of Democrats. Republicans continue to use it to their political advantage and often tied their Democratic opponents to the movement. It is often regarded as a cudgel, which caused Democrats to fail in flipping seats in their favor. That's how they beat the living H out of us across the country, saying that we're talking about defunding the police. We're not. We're talking about holding them accountable. Then President-elect Joe Biden reportedly said in a phone call with civil rights leaders shortly after the 2020 election. Well, I very distinctly remember him saying he wants to defund them before the election. Yeah, when they were whipping everyone into an emotional frenzy to spur up votes, I guess. I mean, no, that's exactly what was happening. Members of the progressive squad, such as Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush, and Jamal Bowman, have repeatedly either called for defunding the police or reallocating their budgets elsewhere. Defunding police means defunding the police, Ocasio-Cortez said in July after New York City voted to cut $1 billion from the budget of the NYPD. $1 billion they cut. And of course, murder rates went up 22%. I wonder if there's a direct correlation. Seems like it. In response to these calls for defunding police, the less than stellar public reaction, moderate Democrats attempted to distance themselves from the movement or have avoided directly addressing it. Of course, they don't want to talk about it. On a segment of Fox News Sunday, host Chris Wallace challenged Republican Ohio Representative Jim Banks with the Democrats' new zinger for the GOP. Can't you make the argument that it's you and the Republicans who are defunding the police? Wallace's question seemed to stem from the novel assertion by Democrats that it's actually Republicans who want to defund the police because they opposed President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief bill that was signed into law without Republican support. The plan contained $350 billion appropriation designated to state, local, and tribal governments to serve as a stimulus to their budgets that were depleted by the pandemic. No, they were depleted because they defunded the police. So now that they're funding them again, they're acting as if it's the Republicans' fault. How dare they not support this bill that was filled with a bunch of other things? They're making it seem that it was just such a simple bill that was just to, fund the police in these terror, crime-ridden areas that they started, that it was their fault to begin with. They did that. And now they're putting it on the Republicans. And this is what people see in the media, that it's the Republicans' faults. The Republicans are at fault. They don't want to stop this crime wave. That's basically what they're saying. Republicans support crime. Just put it out there and say that. The people will believe it. Excuse me, the sheeple. That's really what they are now. A bunch of sheep just believing whatever they're told. I'm sick of that.